season's over here in Virginia, and we got to do the one thing that I dread doing every year, and that's clean all my firearms, my bows, get them ready to put away for the late winter. I don't shoot year round for competition or anything like that, so I want to make sure everything's cleaned up. So today we're just going to start off. We got the Savage 220. I love this firearm. In Virginia, most of the places I hunt, we can only use slug guns. We can't use rifles here. So this was a phenomenal purchase. A little bit pricey, but it's a very, very accurate. I'm comfortably shooting deer at 150 yards with the shotgun. Never thought I would do that. So what we're going to use today, the things that you're going to need, is you're going to probably want disposable gloves. Some of the stuff we use may be bad for your skin. I'm going to have a basic gun scrubber for small parts. I've got some gun oil that we're going to use to coat all of our surfaces with to prevent rust. And depending on what you're shooting, you're going to want to use a solvent. I use solid copper rounds. If you use anything that has copper in it, you're going to need a solvent. This is the only way that you can break down the copper that's deposited into your barrel when you fire the round off. I got some Q-tips. I got my gun cleaning patches. I'm using a pull-through system, but it's got a 20 gauge brush. I got a mop. I got a toothbrush that I like to use. A t-shirt that I can throw away at the end, and then on the bottom side of most of your modern rifles or slug shotguns, you're going to need to separate the stock from the barrel. So we got that. And another important piece is if you got a scope, you're going to make sure you want to use some sort of a scope cover. If you don't have it, you can take rubber bands and put Ziploc bags over it, but you want to make sure you coat those optics, cover the optics so that you don't damage the coating with any of this cleaning supplies. Alright, first things first, we want to disassemble the firearm. Before you start any of this process, you want to make sure that you don't have any ammunition around. It's astonishing how many people accidentally discharge a firearm in the cleaning process, and that is completely unacceptable. You should always make sure there's not a round in the chamber, make sure your magazine is not here, and that you don't have any ammunition anywhere near your working space is a great practice. For this, we're going to have to disassemble the bolt, which is a simple process of making sure, again, the firearm is clear. You're going to pull the trigger, push this down, and the bolt slides right out. We're going to set that down on the counter. And then to disassemble the firearm, we basically have 3 screws, one under this finger, one here, and then one here. We're going to take those out. And I highly encourage you guys, if you've never disassembled your firearm before, watch a couple videos on it. Watch some other people do it. Some are a little bit more complicated than others. The process is not identical unless you're taking apart a Savage 220. But you want to get the firearm disassembled for 2 reasons. I'm going to be running some caustic stuff down my barrel that I don't want to get on my wooden stock, that I don't necessarily want dripping down places that I don't have control over. So by taking these bolts out, gently pull it apart. Has to not damage my trigger group. And this is going to come apart in a couple pieces. I've just got a trigger guard. I've got the barrel shield. Obviously my stock. And the part that we're going to really focus on now is just the trigger group attached to the barrel. Once you get it into this section, you want to be real careful not to drop it, not to throw it around. You want to be very gentle with it because you can damage your trigger group. So work smoothly from here. As I stated previously, I'm going to be using some nitrile disposable gloves because I'm using a substance that's not great to get on my skin. An important thing to start with, if you're using a pole or a push rod, you want to start from the back side and push out towards so you don't damage the crown of your barrel, right? That's important. We're using a pull-through system, so I'm going to simply drop this down through here until it comes out the other side. I'm going to attach my brush to it. And pull through one time. That, I don't know if you could see in the video, but that just breaks loose a lot of the carbon dust. That's just sitting in the barrel. You're just trying to break it free. And then I'm going to simply take this again, run it into my barrel. And these cleaning kits that are the pull-through kind and your cleaning rod should have all brass components on them so they don't damage the barrel. If you pay attention to some of the older ones, they may or may not have that, but you want to use brass. for any of this as to not to damage your rifling. Now we're simply going to take a patch. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can use just a little jag, stick patches through it, put the cleaning solution on it. I like to run it through with a brush on it. It just forces it on all those surfaces really well. I'm just going to put a little bit on here. And that gives me a little bit more control over where that solution's going. So we're going to pull it through. And it's dirty, as you can see. So we're going to do it again. And so what I'd like to do is I'll pull through 2 or 3 brushes worth of this cleaning solution. And I'm going to let it sit for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. And really let that number 9 solvent break up all those little copper pieces that are inside the barrel right now. We're going to make sure that we've made good contact with all surfaces with the solvent and let it do its job. Let it break it down, and then we're going to run some more patches through until it's clean. I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me pull brushes through. It's boring to watch on video. I know. Less talk, more action, but once we get through with that, we'll be back. Something else important that I want to point out is we're using a solvent that breaks down copper, right? Well, if you notice, with most of your kits, the brushes have copper, and it will actually break it down. Ideally, they do make brushes that are specifically to be used with solvents. I don't have any of them today. I usually have a couple of them on hand. But once I got started in this process, I was too far in and there was no turning back. So instead of driving down the road to get me the correct brush, as soon as I pull this through, I just sprayed it off with some gun scrubber and let it dry. But if you do not clean this copper brush off and you've ran solvent through it, it will eat this brush. So pay attention to what you're using before all the haters on the channel jump on and say, oh, you're using the wrong equipment. It's not the wrong equipment. This equipment can be used. You just need to make sure that you're aware that that solvent will break it down if you do not clean it off quick enough. Alright guys, we got it run through enough times to where when I ran the brush through with a patch, I got a clean patch out. So we're ready to go to the next step. And that process, depending on how many rounds you fire through the gun, what kind of ammo you're using, can take 4 or 5 patches, or it could take 20 or 30 patches. Sometimes you really got to let them soak. But now what we're going to do is, we got the barrel clean. We want to protect the barrel. So you're going to take a jag, run a patch through the jag. We're going to get it on here. Basically, I'm just going to put gun oil on here. And we're going to coat the inside of the barrel with it and let it sit while we work on the rest of the weapon. So get plenty of oil on here. I'm going to come back later and pull a lot of this out, but right now I just want to make sure that I'm coating all the surfaces. So get a jag in here, kind of twist it as we pull it through. We're just trying to coat the inside of the barrel the best that we can with that oil. We're not doing any cleaning at this point. We're just getting it set up. Alright, so now that we got the barrel cleaned up, we're going to work on the trigger group, inside the receiver, and then the outside of our barrel, right? One thing you'll notice if you've carried your gun to the woods a lot, you can get sticks and debris and all kinds of stuff stuck up in here. I don't like to put a lot of pressure on these areas, but what I will do is I will apply just a little bit of gun scrubber to a Q-tip. And I'll just kind of gently take this and look around the areas, make sure there's no debris or anything like that stuck inside of your trigger group. Depending on where you're taking this weapon, you know, if it's thick in pines or if there's a piece of pine tree or something right there. Stuff gets in here and you want to make sure it's clean so that it functions correctly when that deer of your lifetime walks out or when somebody comes in your house. Either way, you want to be prepared to use a weapon for what it was designed for. And then I like to just take a cloth, a rag, in this case an old t-shirt, give it a little gun scrubber and wipe down all of these surfaces where gunpowder has made contact, or we're just cleaning everything, giving it a good wipe down. Making it pretty again, being careful about that trigger group. Now, I've got a toothbrush right here. This gun is only 2 years old. It's relatively new. I keep pretty good care of my firearms. But you can take this toothbrush, or they sell nylon brushes that can get in these tight spots. This gun is really, I fired, I think, from sighting in and killing, I think I killed 5 deer with this gun this year. It may have 10 rounds through it, so not a whole lot. And another thing is, people ask me, how do I clean my gun after every time I shoot? I personally do not. I use this gun all season. I never cleaned it one time, but before I put it in my safe into a place where it's not likely to, it'll rust in the safe real easily if you don't clean it. So, during the working season, I keep it in my closet in a soft case. And then the last day of the season this year, it rained real hard. So I left it out on my counter for a week to make sure all that moisture is dry. That's also why I separate it from the stock. So we got that part cleaned up. Now we're going to work on the bolt. I highly recommend that you don't try to disassemble your own bolt unless you've had proper training. Some bolts can be easy to take apart. Some bolts can be real hard to take apart. Depending on what kind of use you put on it, it probably doesn't need it anyways. As long as you're, it's working smoothly in the barrel. But if you're not educated properly on how to do it, it can be very frustrating to get this back together. I've had classes on taking apart the 308 and Remington, model 700. It's not too bad, but they also make tools to make it easier for you, and if you got those tools, it definitely makes a difference. And now that we got everything cleaned up quick and easy, same thing as before, I'm going to take a little bit of gun oil, and this does not take a lot, guys. Put it on a patch. Really all we're trying to do at this point is protect this firearm in the safe. So give it a coating. I'm going to come back and wipe all of it off, as much as I can get off with the rag, because this metal is going to soak in some of that oil. It's going to get in the pits and the grooves and whatnot, which is what you want it to do. You just don't want to have a gun that's just coated in oil, because everything will stick to it. So, I got a rag here with oil on it. I'm going to gently coat, especially these places that you can't easily get to once you put the gun back together. You don't want it to rust. This is a stainless steel barrel, which makes it a little less concerning, but I'm a little OCD, and I like to take care of my investments. So, like I said, once you get it on there good, take a dry cleaning rag, and just wipe it back off. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you won't get it all off. You just get the stuff that is easily accessible, the excess material that hasn't soaked in. Alright, y'all, we're ready to put the gun back together. It's very important to understand the way that accuracy happens, and this gun has not been floated or bedded. It's just a factory firearm. I believe it was floated, I should say, from the firearm, but it's not been glass bedded inside of the stock. But this weapon is only designed to make contact with this stock in minimal places to have consistent vibration, which causes accuracy. So before you put your firearm back together, do a very, very good inspection of all the places where this firearm, the receiver and the barrel, make contact with your stock, and make sure there's nothing there that doesn't belong there. A pine needle can make a huge difference where your receiver meets your barrel. Okay, you want consistency, consistency, consistency. So the less stuff that's in the way, the better. I did a thorough investigation of mine. We're going to slide it back together very gently. Just flip it over in my lap and reassemble it. It's that easy, guys. So I'm going to put this together and I'll be back. Alright, everybody, we're back. We got put back together everything except for the bolt. If you remember, we put a little bit of oil inside the barrel and let it soak for a little while we were cleaning the rest of the firearm. So what I like to do is I like to run a mop through one time at the very end, if I can get it out. And this is kind of absorbs any excess oil in the barrel. So like I said, we're just trying to coat it to protect it while it's in the safe. One quick pull through. You know, the mop's clean, it's got oil on it. I only use it for this purpose, so it's not a big deal. And then to put it back together, all you want to do, the same way it came apart, line up the bolt, pull the trigger, push the slide right in, function check, slides smoothly, no ammo, nothing in the chamber, let the hammer down, works great. I'll leave it out on the table for half of the day today just to make sure it's dried out before I put it in the safe to prevent it from rusting. But it's like new, it's ready to just start doing some killing next year. Hope y'all enjoyed it. See you.